Okay.
Perfect.
So I'm right. So here we go. So I'm just going to do my quick intro and away we go.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm John Higgins, contributing writer to Film and TV Now and the curator of the Facebook page, John Higgins Film Review. And it is an absolute pleasure to welcome one and all to this very special Zoom interview with Stranger Fruit creator and filmmaker Jason Pollock about his new documentary, Finding Kendrick Johnson, which is the accumulation of 4 years of investigation into the death of a Georgia teenager who was found on January 11th, 2013, rolled up in a gym mat in his high school gymnasium, having seemingly died of positional asphyxiation. But as the case evolved, it turned out to be something a little more tragic. The documentary is timely and reflective and well worth your time. Jason, a warm welcome to you. I've got to start by asking you, when did you first become aware of Kendrick's case?
I met Kendrick's mom in Ferguson. So when Ferguson happened and Mike Brown, I moved to Ferguson and I was living in Ferguson making Stranger Fruit for 3 years. And I met a lot of the families. It's a very tight, beautiful family structure of the families who have been victimized by government violence, basically, in America. And they've all come together. So a lot of them came through Ferguson. And that was when I first saw the story and became Facebook friends with Jackie and just saw her sharing the images of KJ's face over and over. This was like 2017. So 4 years after, still nothing had happened. And over and over in my Facebook feed, I would see KJ's face. And it was traumatizing, obviously. And like, no one was helping her at that point. It was a really dead case at that point. And everyone was asking me what I was going to do after the cracking the Mike Brown case. You just cracked the Mike Brown case. What are you going to do next? And I didn't go to Disney World, but I decided to pick a different case that I felt that maybe not as many people had seen, but was really, really important. And the pain that Kendrick's family is experiencing is very unique. And I felt that they needed more justice and that I could bring the skills that we applied to Mike Brown's case, to Kendrick's case. And lo and behold, we cracked it again. And that's a sad indictment of the media. I've cracked 2 huge cases in the last 3 years. On no money, no sleep, no budget, nobody caring. Networks didn't care. Everyone said no to me. But we cracked 2 of these cases that everybody spent all this money on. How much money did the network spend on covering the Mike Brown case? How much activism dollars were spent on covering the Mike Brown case? All these people made so much money off of Mike Brown. And they did the same thing off of KJ. They make so much money off of KJ. Activists built their careers off of KJ in Georgia. Nobody does any work, in my opinion, because I had to go. I'm the one who cracked the cases. And I'm like an artist with a journalism hobby, kind of. And like, I worked for Michael Moore, so I kind of know what I'm doing. But like, I literally just did the work that nobody seemingly had the time to do on 2 of these cases that everybody says is so important to them. So I think that my work is like a black eye on modern day media. And in some ways, like what are the activists doing? Why didn't anyone find this? Why didn't anyone find the Mike Brown stuff? Like, I'm not doing anything nefarious. I'm literally Googling and just doing basic investigatory research, basically. And sadly, nobody's really looking into it and nobody has the time because I think everybody's always chasing trending topics. So when I go to the family, when I went to Brown family, when I went to Jackie, I said, this will be the only thing I'm going to work on. I please give me the exclusivity. It's going to take a bunch of years. I'm committed to you for a bunch of years. And I give the families equity, 50% equity ownership in the film, and just tell them I'm going to do what I can do. And this one took 4 years. So it was tough being undercover that long because if I had gone public, it would have helped the buzz, but it also would have hurt the investigation. So we just stayed quiet until everything was ready to go. And we didn't even announce the existence of the documentary until the day before the documentary came out. And that was all like carefully orchestrated so that everything came out correctly for the Johnson family.
Okay, well, that's it. That's very interesting. I mean, funny enough, that was one of the other questions I was going to ask you, but I think you've answered it, is about the challenges you had to gain access to the specifics. But the question I would like to ask you is, how much footage did you shoot overall?
Yeah, so unlike a lot of filmmakers, I look at my job with the families like a experienced brain surgeon, and I try to make very fine cuts, not sloppy cuts. So I try to explain to the families, this is traumatic for you. I know it is. It's going to be traumatic for me to film it. And we don't need to have a camera in your face that much. So for both for Kendrick, I think we shot with them 4 days in 4 years. And the whole movie is basically kind of built in the edit and the structure and the writing of it, really. So like, I know that I can get their story down, and I don't need them to say it 100 times. And then we sit and we think about how to build it, basically, and that's the longer part.
Mm-hmm. So obviously, the obviously next question I want to ask you is actually, what's been the reaction of the Johnson family to the documentary, the finished product?
They're really happy, and that's a huge relief too, because I really wanted them to be, and to keep it like real piece of investigatory journalism. Like, we didn't show it to them the whole time. They were not a part of making it. We showed it to them when it was done, right the day before, basically, is when they saw it. And they loved it. I was nervous, but I mean, I knew that I knew that they might, because it was my love letter to them. Basically, it's about how strong and beautiful their family is. Actually, it's this very dark story that we tried to like make as light as possible. There's all this lightness in the film. We tried to make it a celebration of KJ's life too, and that comes through in what they say about him. And what I've learned from their experience of seeing the film and how it's playing out now in Georgia is that, Georgia media is to blame for this. So Georgia media isn't covering the film, just like all the activists who are hurt that the film embarrassed them. Georgia media is hurt that the film embarrassed them too. So what the film is doing for the first time for the Johnson family is it's taking KJ's story national for a long extended period of time. Sometimes KJ's story goes national for like a day, then it goes away. But now KJ's story is worldwide, forever. And that's what I've been working on for 4 years, to elevate this young man and his important story. He is the Emmett Till of our generation, and it's been so covered up that no one even knew. And it took, like, I guess, a filmmaker to show everybody what was actually going on there, because Georgia media was never going to show them. Georgia media isn't even writing about the film. The local newspaper wrote like one article in the last line, I'm paraphrasing, but it was basically, "We are unsure where the film is available." This is like the day it came out on every platform. It's like, you guys have watched, they watched the movie before they wrote that article, but like, this is the level of miseducation that's going. We don't even know where it's available. That's in the local newspaper the day we came. We're unsure where it's available. So they're not reporting on the facts of in the film. They're not reporting on the FBI report I found, because they didn't report on the FBI report I found first. It's so embarrassing to them. So that's why we're just going to keep this national for the first time for the Johnson family correctly. Like, a lot of the networks and the streaming channels, they're so focused on these long form documentaries that in my opinion, are long, boring, and slow, because they want to fill 8 hours so badly. They don't even have enough content. So they interview like 900 people. There's so many talking heads. It's just this like big mess to me. And it's mostly, in my opinion, like a rough cut. Like it's just like I tried to make a piece. I see it and I'm like, wow, I can make a great 90-minute movie from what I just saw. So when we showed it to the networks, they kept saying, well, it's not enough. Where's the other side? It was like, well, that's not the point of this. The other side is lying. I don't need you. I didn't want white people in the movie talking about what they think of what happened to KJ. I wanted to, because that's what's been perpetuated the whole time. That's what mainstream media and the 24-hour news and all these true crime shows, that's what all they do. Oh, here's the other side. Well, some of that is actually fake news. So I just wanted to create a condensed piece of just the facts and just the family's like human story to try to put a human face on it. Yeah. And I think that when you see that, sure, you can look up other stuff and everything, but like I think you see the truth, what Jackie Johnson is going through today. And when you finish the film, that's what she's going through today. You know, how does she sleep at night? And nobody's ever given her that moment in the media because everybody's always they might try to say, oh, Jason did fancy editing. That's like their favorite thing to say about Michael Moore, you know? Oh, fancy editing. Well, what we do is show things that you didn't show. So you cut it out. And then we show it. You're the fancy editor. You know, there's a lot in the movie that hasn't been seen. They cut it out. I put it back in.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I think was so great about the documentary, is because it not only reflects on the investigation, but it also reflects, there's part of it, the context and backdrop of the area. I mean, I was certainly shocked by some of those postcards that were being promoted. And I think my kind of thing was really, it's made me think about my own mindset about the issue of slavery, civil rights, everything else, because we've normally seen that in films like, I don't know, we see it in films like The Help, or we see it in like Time to Kill, or we see it in, you know, Mississippi Burning is an example of a Hollywood thing that was done like that. I mean, when you look at when you reflect on that kind of part of the documentary, the area and what the whole essence of that particular area of the state, I mean, what are your own reflections about it? I mean, how do you feel, you know, about Georgia as a state, as, you know, where it is at the moment?
Yeah, so basically, in the work that I've been doing, when we report on the murder, we also try to show the context. And so with Mike Brown, it was a deep dive into that region, and it was a deep dive into the history of policing, because that was what took out Mike Brown. And then when we looked at KJ, we looked at this region. It's just as bad everywhere. The history of Black America is one of trying to get free, finally being free, supposedly, and then like white people just destroying everything that you have as a free person. And so the history of Valdosta is one of the worst in America, truly. I mean, Mary Turner is a very famous story. If you're Black, if you're white, you don't know about it. What I try to do in the film is basically show the real history in our country that is not being taught in classrooms, that they're actually trying to actively basically lie to kids in classrooms and tell them complete fabrications so that they have completely ill-attached connections to what their past is actually. And so what we try to do in the film is show the context of the case. This case didn't just happen in a bubble. It's actually connected to a long history, and it's connected to a long history of the organization that perpetrated the cover up, and it's connected to a long history of the geographical location that the cover up is happening. And those two elements come together, and they don't just come together out of nowhere. You know, they come together after hundreds of years of racism and institutional racism and slavery in this country. And so I think for a white audience, I'm trying to help white people wake up a little bit and accept the reality most Black people know the history of Black Americans. Most white people don't. They think the Tulsa riots was happened in a bubble. Well, in fact, it happened in every major city. You know, they burned down most major Black cities in many major cities. And in Valdosta, the Deep South, where slavery is so prevalent, that slave mindset is prevalent even to this day, both in the white community and in the Black community. You know, people are afraid, so afraid to speak up because of hundreds of years of abuse. And then white people think they can just do whatever they want because they've been doing whatever they want for hundreds of years. And the law doesn't mean a damn thing if your skin is this color. And so the film is kind of like breaking the bubble for all of that, basically. And it must be very interesting to be in Valdosta right now because they've never really had a piece of media like this that defends their story, basically, you know, because there's nobody down there that's going to defend their story in the white run media down there.
So my next question is obviously one of the things you were talking about, how to educate people. And I'm just interested, what are your plans? Are you planning to show the film to colleges and universities? Is there a plan in place for that at present?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, we're already getting a lot of requests for that. And the intention is to always make something that will be screened in colleges for decades to come because it's meaningful, you know? And so I think that will happen with this film. I think that teachers will be able to use this film in their syllabus, and it will open up wide discussions in many, many directions for them. You know, you play this movie in your college classroom, and you're going to have weeks of stuff to talk to your kids about, basically. And so that's what we're trying to do. It's this super condensed, highly energy induced piece of art that kind of has this big ripple effect. And I think I'm just much more focused on creating these pieces in this format than these slower, long. I know the docuseries is so hot right now, but I honestly think that they're kind of slow. Like, you can't take your eyes off Finding Kendrick Johnson. You can't move. And that's because it rocks like a piece of art should. So when you put that in a classroom with all the information it has in it, you know, we're working with different organizations to try to take it to HBCUs, especially historically Black colleges in America. There's a huge HBCU network in Atlanta. You have Clark, Morehouse, Spelman. These are like the Ivy Leagues if you're Black in America. So because it happened in Georgia, and Atlanta is kind of like the capital of Black culture in the country, we're going to be working with Atlanta a lot, Atlanta universities and Atlanta culture, to make sure that, you know, the story is for them really too. Anybody there has been dealing with this for 8 years. I think the success of the film is because all these people have been following the case for so long. It hasn't left their minds. Once you hear about it, you can't stop thinking about it. And finally, you know, something came that delivered a message of what was actually going on, basically.
So obviously, one question, the question I'd like to ask you next is, how significant do you feel that the documentary will be in terms of progress for cases of a similar nature? Because it is opening up an interesting dialogue. I mean, that's what's so great about it. I think the whole long form documentary, I mean, I probably don't have time to watch those things, but I do like watching documentaries that are compact like this, and I think it does achieve the aims that you've set out to do. So that's, so yeah, I mean, obviously in terms of making progress for cases like this, how significant do you feel it has?
Well, I can speak from the last experience that we had. We cracked the Mike Brown case. We proved the murder. I proved the murder. Like, if you watch the film, you will, it was 100, it has never been reported. The evidence in the film where I proved the murder has never been accurately reported on by a single journalist, but I show the bullet speed and an audio tape, and I proved that Mike Brown was not moving forward. He was not rushing him. So anyways, the film came out. The white prosecutor in the film was outed. He was removed. He lost the election. A black prosecutor came in. We rallied, reopened the case. The black prosecutor reopened the case and then closed the case. So do I think that this film will bring justice in local authorities? No. Do I think this time around that I've learned from that, and we have, we're basically just going to try to go national with KJ's case. We need congressional oversight into the FBI. They have completely done something. We don't know what, but like something happened. And so there's no way that people in Georgia are going to call for the oversight that's needed on the KJ case. So our goal now is to use the film to create enough buzz for KJ in the culture. People keep saying to me, what should I do? It's like, what you need to do right now is make the film go viral. Share the film. KJ needs to go viral. Everyone needs to see the movie. If the movie picks up enough speed in the culture, then we will have enough leverage to take this to Washington. And we are. So we want national leaders to look at this, watch the movie, understand what's happened here, and start calling for action at a national level for KJ. Because until that happens, I don't believe that the state of Georgia, especially Valdosta and its region, are going to do a damn thing about this. They've been trying to make this go away. That's why this is so destructive, because now it's like, well, this really isn't going away, guy. I know you've been trying for 8 years, but now it's really not. Like, now we're the biggest kind of documentary in the country, and it's on the tip of everyone's tongue. And what do you, and their response to us is nothing. They're not writing about it. They're not reporting on it, talking about the weather today. Because they're trying to make all this just go. They want to just move on with their lives. But to me, that's like a big part of the story that shows the fact that they just want to move on with their lives, and the facts of the case are the facts of the case, says so much. That I don't have to say. That's why the film is like this different kind of film, because I have to say so much less. It says so much without me actually saying anything, basically. Like, just look at this. Look at the facts. There's a huge town in Georgia that's just trying to move on from this. And just and they're the only family that's ever like stood up to the infrastructure down there. You know how many black lives are lost in Valdosta, just disappear? They just disappear down there. Completely just okay, where did he go? I don't know. And so this is the first time a family was really like, hell no, and haven't stopped, basically.
Okay, I've got two final questions, Jason. The first one is a filmmaking one, actually. Is what advice would you give anyone wanting to make their debut as a documentarian?
Get ready to bang yourself against the wall 50,000 times. I don't know. I mean, you have to. The only reason I'm doing this is I want to do it so badly that I'm willing to sacrifice my health, my safety, my security. The only thing I can describe it to as is like that guy, Aaron Hunnell. You know who that is? Mm-hmm. He climbs like Yosemite without a rope. Have you seen that documentary?
Oh, you mean Free Solo?
Yeah, that guy.
Oh, blimey.
That is what it's like to be a documentary filmmaker every single day for as long as you can hang on. And like, that's why a lot of people because we make films that get as many views, if not more, than the feature actor films on these streaming platforms now. And we get a 10th of the budget. We get a 10th of the licensing fee, and we get a 100th of the respect. And we are pulling the same data that they are pulling. And I know that. So like, that's why it's really upsetting to me to see how Hollywood treats documentaries like The Step Brother when they are looking at their views in the back end and they know what they're pulling. And this whole new docuseries trend is kind of, to me, like the new form of reality TV, because it's like low cost, like the reason they did reality TV was like low cost, high numbers, cost us nothing. It's the #1 show on our network. And that's basically the way they treat documentary filmmakers. So if you don't want to do this like 1,000,000%, I would just maybe you can work on a documentary and get paid. You can have a great career working on other people's documentaries and get paid. Making your own documentary, you can make one just keep making it on the side. But for me, I never made a really good piece of art until I gave it all up and went like commando, and like that's when Stranger Fruit happened. And I've been broke for 7 years. No, I didn't make $1 off anything. So we have this huge movie. I'm not seeing a single dollar. Who knows if I'll ever see a single dollar? And that's just not the case if you made a feature film with actors. And if your movie is #4 on iTunes, you have a feature film with actors, you're seeing dollars. Whereas if you're a documentary filmmaker, you're not. And I'm not alone. You know, we're all on this boat together. So yeah, I mean, I hope that hopefully the industry, that's why I keep trying to talk about it as an art form, because I hope the industry starts to see it as, wow, there are some documentaries that are equal art forms to these scripted actor movies. And wow, Jason made a movie, and I can watch Jason's movie and feel the same ups and downs as I do if I see a actor movie. And like, that's what Michael Moore instilled in me. You know, when I first saw Roger and Me in high school, that's what I felt. I felt, wow, I'm watching a documentary, but it feels like a movie, you know? And like, I'm at the end, I feel like I watched a movie. I don't feel like I watched a documentary. And like, that was always our goal with what he was doing. And it's always been what I'm doing over here. And I think that there are a lot of documentary filmmakers that are journalists. They become documentary filmmakers, and that's cool too. But that's like a whole other mindset kind of what the out product is, you know? And all those journalists say that they're artists too. Everybody's everything, but like, yeah, if you're making your own, I would say 1, you need a job. And 2, you need the thickest skin, because nobody's going to believe in your work until the very last day. Until the very last day. Finding Kendrick Johnson was rejected by everybody in town. And now we got theatrical, we got 20 theaters. We're #4 on iTunes. We're #8 all indie films last week on the Associated Press. So the town doesn't really know what it's talking about. You just have to believe that what you're doing is really important. Okay. See the vision.
Well, Jason, I think we're running out of time now anyway, but I just want to say finally, thank you so much for your time today. I've really loved listening to the backdrop and the reflection of your documentary. I mean, you've got everything to be proud of. I think this is getting a really great exposure. I mean, this was a revelation to me, as I mentioned earlier. As Jason mentioned, this is the #4 documentary on iTunes, and is available on digital and VOD. And in America, it's going to be screened theatrically nationwide across the USA. On that note, thank you again, Jason, for your time. Support independent cinema, supports filmmakers like Jason as they endeavor to get important films like this one out. Support the cinemas across the world as they continue to reopen. And we look forward to another interview special again soon. Thank you so much again, Jason.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.